Hello, Music 34. Hopefully you guys are doing well. Sorry about the sporadic videos here and there, but hopefully I've been giving you enough time to kind of look at the material. I'll be responding to your homework from 33, um, chapter 33 as fast as I can. I realized after um, giving you these assignments, I basically put out 4 assignments. So I have to learn all 4 assignments to be able to respond to you in detail, and you guys get a little bit of analysis that you can do on your own. But that'll take some time to grade. So but thankfully we're in a new kind of mode with this 34. Hopefully, mode. Hopefully, you're enjoying the modes again. Enjoying getting back into that. Um, with these couple different parts to it, like the Lydian, Mixolydian, and understanding the modes maybe from a different perspective than you had originally when we discussed them in Music 31. Um, Hopefully, composers, people who compose out there, are finding some interesting new materials that you could be working with. I use these things a lot, and I would love to discuss them in detail. But for right now, it's a lot about terminology and being able to collect all the pitches together and say this is what it is, or this is what it is, or if it doesn't fit quite into here, maybe it's this instead. Where is the composer getting the information? Is it from a mode? Is it from a different collection? And we're going to talk about more collections here. The last thing that we discussed um, last week was the idea of planing. Let me play this one more time. Make sure that everything is sharing good. Um, Here we go. The idea of planing is using like a chord that can go up, a chord like a major chord or a minor chord, or any type of collection, and either doing this exactly, as in chromatic planing, or diatonic planing, doing it within a diatonic scale or type of mode, going just up and down. We have this A major chord in first inversion. Let me play it again. That's an exact planing or a real planing. We take one thing and just a plane goes down and comes back up. It's not referring to plane as in an airplane. It's referring to a plane as in a surface, right? A surface shifting back and forth, right? And this will develop into more things later on. Listen to it in context for Claude Debussy. It's kind of a cool idea here. Um, the idea of planing here. I thought there was another example. Where's the other example? This is another one. Parallel fifths, planing in parallel fifths, breaking the rules specifically, right? And then planing of dominant ninth chords over here. Let's listen. You'll notice it ended on what they said was a 5/7 chord. Did it sound like a 5/7 chord? Maybe it did, but only within the context of tonal music. It didn't actually sound like that until whatever happens afterwards would happen, or until you would hear whatever happens afterwards. It is technically a 5/7 chord in the key of G major. Listen to it. And then what do you do with that after? You can maybe go to G minor, right? I don't know what it actually does in measure 28. We have to listen to it. Listen to this one more time. It's a D major chord. It's a tonic almost. This guy. Or maybe you can use that 5/7 as a German, going to a completely different key or something like that, right? It's just another effect that can happen within the context of tonal music, or just keep it as an effect for it itself, right? Ravel and Debussy use that stuff a lot. Okay, let's talk about a couple more things. Just a couple different terminologies. A split third chord, or major minor tetrachord, is another way of putting it. The better I like saying a split third chord instead. The idea is that it's a 4-note triad, quote unquote, where you have both the major and the minor third above the root. Most of the time those are separated. It's not just a C major chord with an E flat as well. Not like that. Often it's like a C, G in the bass with an E flat somewhere and an E natural above that. Or backwards. Right? Both C major and C minor are happening at the same time. In this particular case, we have a D major chord and a D minor chord happening at the same time. F natural is down here, regular just chord here. Now we have a D major chord in first inversion with F sharp here and F natural here, right? Let's listen to what it sounds like. Right? So there's technically a split chord, even though the F sharps and the F naturals are actually happening at different times anyway. So it's actually, in this case, it's split. It's going between the major and minor very rapidly. If we collect it all together, we could say split third chord, but you can actually have this simultaneous as well, right? Right? Maybe that's something that you'd like to use sometime, but you'll at least have to be able to recognize it. Remember that split third chord. The idea is there. Along with all of this other stuff, just mathematical principles that we can apply. We say stack in thirds often, which means that we can have these really extended tertian harmonies, right? These crazy chords. That's a sharp 11. This is a sharp 11 13 chord, right? Beautiful, beautiful harmonies. What if we stacked not in thirds, but in something different? That comes in, and that's where chordal, quintal, and secundal harmonies come in. A chordal harmony is a harmony that stacks within fourths. So we're talking about perfect fourths here. C, F, B flat, E flat, A flat. And it can stack as long as you want to if you'd like to. A quintal chord would be kind of the opposite. If you remember, if you go up fourths, you can go down fifths, right? So if I went down instead, we'd actually call that a quintal harmony, even though it's using the exact same notes. It's just a flipped version of the same thing. So up, well, that would be C, F, B flat, E flat, A flat. Downward, that would be C, F, B flat, E flat, A flat. It has a lot more open sound than the fourths, in my opinion. The first one was a quintal harmony, the second one was a chordal harmony, but they're using the exact same notes, right? The idea is that you have fifths stacked up on top of each other, you have fourths. If I were to go back and forth between the same quintal and chordal harmony, as in, say, with the same root, this is a quintal chord. The chordal harmony maybe sounds more minor. So you can use both back to back, and then you can transpose, right? Yeah, so you can create these odd open sounding harmonies, the quintal and chordal. Remember this, the chordal and the quintal are very similar to each other. The chordal is an upside down version of the quintal and vice versa, right? You can go up fourths or up fifths. You can go down fourths or down fifths and then become the same thing flipped on top of each other, because fourths are fifths in inversion, right? Let's listen to this Claude Debussy. These are considered quintal harmonies, even though you could also consider this maybe like a G9 chord. It doesn't have the B and the F, so it's probably more associated with quintal, because it doesn't use a tertian stack, right? Even though you could fit notes in there. But as you compose, you can start with maybe this quintal harmony, and add in B natural or B flat to get another note, or F and F sharp to get another note, as in this type of thing. So you're adding things, and you can change the feeling of that with added in notes to make those tertian harmonies. Quintal chords have that in there. Let's look at segundal harmony. We start with these fifths, right? Whenever you see a bunch of fifths together, ask yourself, is it Is it a tertian harmony or a quintal harmony? Yeah, these are technically quintal, but they're just fifths by themselves, back and forth, right? Right? They don't have the thirds, is the idea. And the third is actually right here, so in all reality, this becomes an A minor chord, not even a quintal harmony, just a regular A minor chord with a B up top, maybe as a neighbor tone or something like that. Segundal harmonies right here are notes that are just right next to each other. You can have as many stacked on top of each other as you want. Segundal seconds. Right? Pretty close. They are pretty soon they are called what's called clusters. But look at the segundal harmony here and compare that to the quintal harmony. Good. They have a little, in this particular case, you have goblin and mosquito. You're trying to portray something that's a little bit whimsical or something like that. So they have the quintal against the segundal to give two different feelings of this. Yeah. Mathematical approach. They're not really worried too much about. They're not worried too much about tonal harmonies necessarily, even though everything fits within the Aeonian, right? Aeolian is what I meant. A minor framework, the modal framework there. Okay. When you analyze modal compositions of the 20th or 21st centuries, listen for pitch class centers, then list all the PCs in ascending order, beginning with that center to determine the mode. If there are extra pitches that cannot be explained as embellishing tones, consider a bitonal or bimodal analysis, especially if the texture is stratified. Watch for voice leading that mimics common practice style, as in 5-1, right? As well as voice leading that departs from it, as in planing. Identify sonorities that impart a distinctive flavor to the composition: ninth chords, split third chords, and chordal and quintal harmonies or segundal harmonies. These all can be possibilities within an approach, especially if the diatonic framework, regular Roman numerals, won't do the trick, right? Some of these things are more effects or affects, and some of these are more maybe techniques like planing, and some of these are more actually collections that you can use exclusively for different things. But you'll see, oh, there's quintal harmonies right here, but there's some chords maybe associated with it as well, right? There's fifths at least, is what we would say. Okay, so all these can be mixed together. Let's look at this one real quick and see if we can see what's going on. First of all, let's see, we can collect all of these notes. Listen to an excerpt from the song by Lily Bullinger, and let's see what kind of things apply to it. We have triplets going on. Oh, triplets against this 3/4 rhythm. That's really odd. Stuff going on. Yeah. Let's see, what chord is this? So C, G, C, G, and C. Just C, G, C, G, C, G, C, G, G, which is C. So there's no third in that at all. And then you go up. Everything goes up by one with a D flat instead, right? And then it goes up again to A flat. Hey, guess what? All of these guys are the exact same shape as each other. What is that? What kind of word would we describe that as? And the answer is planing. They're all the exact same formation, just planing up, right? And it keeps on happening that way as well. There's not really any rhyme or reason to it in that regard. Yeah. Circle all terms that apply. Are there split third chords? Or are there anything? Let's look at the answer right here. Quintal chords is something that you could say, right? Maybe. Now, in all reality, they're just missing a third, right? I wouldn't actually call it quintal. From my... yeah, I guess because they don't have thirds, you could call it quintal. In my opinion, that might be saved for something that's more than two notes. But you can call it quintal. But it's definitely planing, is the idea. You can argue about these certain things, right? For me, I'd like to have three notes that are stacked in thirds, unless there's something else to be said. I don't know. This could be considered quintal if you'd like to. Okay. You've already been doing some of this for your homework, and there's more to be done. And we'll have a quiz on this, or at least have some analysis for our midterm as well. But I'll hopefully be able to look at your homework and guide you through what we need to be guided through. Just what I would do, I'm going to say this now actually, I'm going to stop share for a second. Make a list of all of these terminologies and kind of try to get just written down list of all these terminologies and really try to give a brief example, a brief definition of them for yourself. Then you'll really kind of understand your way of finding each one of these. I have no way of saying that this can't be an open book exam, so you'll likely be able to have the book with you, but it will be beneficial for you guys to have your own copy of your definitions of this as well, so you don't have to be looking through the book all the time. Okay, that being said, let's go into the beginning of what sets are. Okay, one system that musicians have developed to describe the collections and sonorities of music after 1900s is called set theory. We have been doing some math with segundal and quintal and quartal chords where we're built in fourths, or maybe there's bitonal and we're trying to mix things up and deal with half steps versus whole steps, but still using A, B, C, D, E, F, G to refer to a diatonic or 7-note structure, right? So what does set theory do for us? Set theory, or a set, is a group of unordered pitches or pitch classes. The term set refers to a group of pitches or pitch classes, or PC set, you could say. Pitches, P set, or pitch classes, PC set. The pitches or pitch classes in a set are called its elements. List elements of a set only once, as in you don't have to list them more than once. A small group of some of a set's element is called a subset. Sets or subsets of different sizes or cardinalities take different names. Two elements interval is called an interval or a dyad, 2 parts. 3 elements is called a trichord. 4 elements is called a tetrachord. 4 elements is called tetrachord. 5 elements is called a pentachord. You've already heard things like this. 6 elements is a hexachord. 7 heptachord. 8 octachord. 9 nonochord. You could you could have even more, up to 12, right? 12 would be a chromatic scale, is the idea. So there's only one potentially. Okay, so when we have 2 elements, we call it an interval or a dyad. 3 elements is a trichord or a triad, if you'd like to say that. 4 and 5 and 6 and 7. So why are we doing all of this? The reason is because we're going to start collecting notes that might not otherwise be collected together. For instance, if I wanted to have C, C sharp, D, A flat, and G and B together as part of a set, there's no scale, there's no rhyme or reason why I picked those notes, but it has a certain sound to it, so we could call this a set that's always collected together. I'm only going to use those notes for a while, okay? What we want to do then is, instead of labeling these A, B, C, D, E, F, G, as in assuming that we are going to have 7 notes within a scale, we're going to label them differently. We're going to label them according to numbers instead. How many numbers or how many divisions of an octave do we have in music? 12. There's 12. So we're going to label these 0 through 11. And why do we do that? You could do it 1 through 12, but 0 through 11 actually gives us fewer double-digit numbers that we have to deal with. Okay? Integer notation is what we're referring to right here. We're going to get back to these little guys here. So for now, hold on to the word set. Set is a set of pitches that can be collected together. Technically, a triad, a CEG chord, is a set. Okay? And what would the CEG chord be as a set if we're using integer notation instead? Okay? And that would be, we're going to say C or B sharp right? Or D double flat if we wanted to, is going to be 0. C sharp is going to be 1. So let's find, and then we 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so we're going to use 1, 2, 3, 4, or 0 through E to just go from C to B for some reason. Okay, we're just going to label them that. So a C, E, G chord would be what? Start with 0, C, 0, and then E is 4, and then G is 7. So 0, 4, 7. 0, 4, 7 is a set that is also called a C major chord when we're talking about tonal harmonies. Okay? But you can have any set that you want to. You can have a phone number be a set. You can have a zip code be a set. My zip code, I live in Fairfield, Ohio, 45014. So let's do that. 45014. Now the 4 we wouldn't have to repeat. So technically the set would just be 0, 1, 4, 5. But if I wanted to order those according to my zip code and have a melody line based on that, I could do that. 45014. And it happens to be a pretty nice little melody, right? Fairfield, Ohio, everybody, right? You can come up with things now based on numbers that refer directly to pitches, 0 through 11 in this case. Now, you might have noticed you'll never get 10 and 11 if you're doing it that way, right? Because there's no 10s and 11s, except if you were creative. 45014. Maybe the 0, 1 could be 10 instead, like backwards. Let's go backwards instead. 5, 45014. 10 would be 11. And then 54 would be, it happens to be just this kind of normal sounding thing, yeah. So you can have fun with it now. We can kind of put pitches together in a different way, okay. A collection of all 12 pitches. The term is an aggregate. The term generally refers to the combination of 2 or more 12-tone rows to generate new 12-tone collections. Aggregates may also appear in non-12-tone music. Okay, so an aggregate would be an ordered pitch class, a complete chromatic collection, 0 to 11, but usually ordered in a certain way, is what we usually say there. But for now, this is 0 through 211. We just know that as a chromatic scale. So what we're going to do in our homework is going to practice this new integer notation, because we're actually going to do a couple chapters based on set theory. That can be really confusing for some people and really easy for some people, and very interesting for a lot of people to create these new types of sounds that otherwise would be kind of random, is the idea. Cool. All right, so that's the idea. You can do some of this on your own. But dominant 7th chord starting on A, so you have to transfer that from dominant. So A would be, oh shoot, what's A? 9, okay. Start memorizing this little clock face, that'll help. You'll notice that it has some similarities to the circle of fifths, as in A used to be here, E flat used to be here, it's actually flipped from each other, but the ones in between are not the same, right? C, C sharp, D. D is actually in the correct spot. Right? So every other one of these is in the correct spot, which makes sense because up 2/5 is also the same as up 2 half steps. Think about that. That's secundal versus quintal. Whew, lots of math going on. Anyway, I'm nerding out a little bit too much. But for now, what you're going to do is refer to this clock face and memorize what notes are what. Let me just give you a couple quick tips. Here we go. Listening caps on. There we go. C is 0. We know that. Right? 6 is a tritone away from C, F sharp. Okay? 0, 6. Remember those. 0 is C, 6 is F sharp. G is very closely related to C. G is 7. So 0 and 7 could be things to lock into. If you want the C major chord to lock in, remember 0, 4, 7. You can also think minor third from C is 3, E flat, C, E flat, G, 0, 3, 7. My favorite way of looking at this is actually from the clock face itself. 0369, guess what, is a fully diminished seventh chord. A fully diminished seventh chord is 0369, all minor thirds, and also parts of the clock face, right? From there, you can figure out the rest. Yeah. Things that people often confuse, just in my experience, A and A flat are very confusing for a lot of people. A is 9, A flat is 8. For whatever reason, people get those wrong a lot. A is 9, A flat is 8. But just look at this. Oh, you can just always refer to this. Start trying to memorize this. I will try to come up with a quiz for you so that you can practice this a lot on your own. Okay? Fantastic. Okay. Let's move on, okay, from set theory. Set theory, that gets you past 34.4, most of 34.4, and some of the Bela Bartok, if we'd like to go into that. And then we're going to actually do some of the scale review, too. Just a reminder of some of these things, and then I'm going to introduce a couple more things, and then we'll be done. Pentatonic scale, you guys know this. The major pentatonic scale is the major diatonic scale without the leading tone and without the tendency tone fa. So no fa, no ti. That's 1, 2, 3, 5, and 6. That's the major pentatonic scale. C, D, E, G, A. That's the 5-tone scale, or that's a pentatonic scale. Okay. But there's also other pentatonic scales that can be given as well. This is a G pentatonic scale technically, but it's written in a different way with E as kind of as the root. It's not a major pentatonic scale. It's the minor pentatonic scale instead. It's the same as the G major pentatonic scale. We would call it an E minor pentatonic scale. But you don't have to focus on E, and you don't have to focus on G. So we're just going to call it pentatonic in general. Most of the time it does have that same, it has that same shape where you skip the tendency tones of a major scale, right? But it doesn't have to. You can have 5 notes together at any point. Most of the time, pentatonic refers to major or minor pentatonic scale, either starting on the 6th scale degree of a pentatonic or the 1st scale degree of a pentatonic scale. Okay? That's just a review, so we're going to keep on going. The integer notation is 0, 2, 4, 7, 9 for a C major pentatonic scale. You can transpose that to whatever you want to. Okay? Okay, we are going to skip this literal components terminology. You can look at that on your own. I don't want to confuse people. Let's listen to this real quick. It all has this really open sound to it. Yeah, so A is kind of focused on. It's not quite the same pentatonic scale. You can actually find out that this is more of a D pentatonic scale, but focused on A, focused on the 5th scale degree of a D major scale. Pretty cool. Okay, different things that you can do with that. Let's talk about the whole tone scale. I think you may already know this. A lot of people do. The whole tone scale is just when you just take whole steps together without doing any half steps. C, D, E, F sharp, G sharp, A sharp, C. You probably have already heard of this. There's only 2 different types of whole tone scales. You can either start on C and go from C to C, or you can start on C sharp and go from C sharp to C sharp. But they can have different pitch centers. Listen to this. The integer notation for this would be 0, 2, 4, 6, 8, T, or 10. You could use it, you could write it in either way. Yeah, it's a really nice open sound, kind of magical type sound. Only 2 possibilities, either whole tone 0, which starts on 0 and goes up to T, or whole tone 1, which starts on 1 and goes up to E. they skip each other basically, right? And if you start on 2, you'll still get the same pitches together. And just that it'll be focused on 2, maybe. Okay. The whole tone scale is called a symmetrical scale because it just loops on top of each other. And the intervals between scale members read the same forwards and backwards, all major seconds over and over and over and over again. That's the idea. Okay. Let's look at octatonic scales. Those are pretty fun as well. It's kind of a similar idea as the whole tone scale, where you just have whole steps, except you're going to alternate between whole steps and half steps instead. And these are also kind of symmetrical scales, okay? There's only a couple of different variety of octatonic scale. This is what it kind of sounds like. If you start on a D sharp and go up a whole step first to E sharp, and then F sharp, up 1, up 2, or a whole step to G sharp, up 1 to A, up 2 half steps to B, up 1 half step to C, up 2 half steps to D, and then up 1 half step to D sharp again. This is called a whole half octatonic scale, or a what would this be called? This would be a 0-2, octatonic 0-2 scale, or maybe we'd call it 1-2. No, it would be 0-1. That would be the answer here. So octatonic 0-1. There's only 3 scales that you can have associated with it. One starts on C, or can have C in it, right? And then go to 1 from there. The next one is called a 1-2. The half step starts from C sharp to D. And then a 2-3 could also, oh shoot, they're actually referring to things different. This is how we're going to do that. The scales that you're going to refer to are based on the first half step that they have. 0-1, 1-2, or 2-3, depending on where you start in all of this, okay? Consists of 8 pitches that alternate whole steps and half steps. There are 3 possible octatonic collections based off of either 0-1, 0-1, 1-2, or 2-3. Some people have different ways of describing what the octatonic scale, what specific octatonic scale there is, and I don't think you actually do have to come up with which one you use. This 2-3 octatonic scale can also be called a 0-2 octatonic scale if you'd like to, because that's always starting on 0 instead. This one is always called 1-2 because you can't say it doesn't have 0 in it at all, and that's the differentiation that we're referring to. Okay, so octatonic scale alternates whole steps and half steps and whole steps, right? And they sound slightly different from each other, and they're actually very, very mathematically kind of cool once you kind of get into them. But for right now, we're not going to worry about all of that too much. Let's keep on going. Okay, another name for the octatonic scale is called a diminished scale because it actually has 2 different diminished chords in there. I'm not going to explain that completely. Know them as octatonic at first, and then we can go into it in more detail later on. Hexatonic scale, 6-note scales, right, are different types of things. Technically, the whole tone scale could be called hexatonic, but in this particular case, we're going to alternate not minor seconds and major seconds, or 1 half step, 2 half steps. We're going to alternate minor thirds and minor seconds. Listen to this. Pretty cool type of sound here. Let's listen to a piece based on it. The book will also label these according to their first half step that they have when you collect them together. There are only 4 possible types of hexatonic scales before they loop onto each other. 0-1, 1-2, 2-3, and 3-4. There it is. The lowest possible half step is what they're named off of, okay? And I think that is what we're going to stop on, okay? Hopefully that gives you enough information to kind of look into it, right? Some of these are going to be pretty hard, and I'm going to give you probably another week to finish up this whole chapter, and I'll likely have another video where we can explore a piece together, a piece or two together, so to prepare for midterms coming up. Okay, looks like surgery is going to be pushed back another couple weeks, so I'm gonna let's just expect to kind of stay on course, get through as much as we can before having a little bit of a midterm assignment, probably, instead of an actual exam. Let me look at the syllabus really quick. We are pretty well on our way to doing things. We have the modes, scales, and sets, and then rhythm, meter, and form we'll be able to explore next week as well. We're on track right now. I'll be grading your homework, responding to it, and probably doing another recording to make things even more clear as we move forward. Please reach out with any questions that you might have. Cool? All right, excited about it. See you in a little bit.